Hello again, I am Fluff, and what I have for you today is quite a nice battle from War Thunder. This was one of the Combined Arms No Marker events, and my vehicle is a stock 1947 T-54. Now this was something like my third battle in the T-54 ever, and I don't play a huge amount of the simulator mode, so that combined with the fact that I most likely wouldn't get a repair if I took any real damage, did lead me to be a bit more cautious than I usually am. Not that that's a bad thing at all. I have to mention, as I roll along clearly knowing exactly where I'm going to set up position, that getting to this particular tank has been a bit of a saga. Of course, just like with War Thunder planes, the second you leave the third tier you are pretty much hitting grind country, and then on top of that you have all the joys of stock syndrome once you do acquire a new vehicle, so I've taken care not to burn out in that regard. Add in work and study, and it turns out that the time it takes me to get from a T-34 to a T-54 in War Thunder is approximately 1 year. And to top it all off, it's not even the one that I initially set my sights on. Well, let's go ahead and skip forward to where some happenings start occurring then. My initial decision was to overlook a point where the AI tanks were advancing and then just camp out there. My reasoning was that if I'm static, I'm a little bit less likely to be detected, I've got a better chance of seeing another guy first as he'll probably be moving, and if I'm near friendly AI there are two benefits. One is that those are targets the enemy might see and shoot before me, and another is that because AI represent more or less free income, I figured there would probably be someone along to shoot at them soon enough. Well, hello there, Mr. Kugelblitz. Eventually my caution is overridden by the fact that I know that was a good hit, and he is after all just an SPAA. And then it's time to deal with the AI, as these PZ-38Ts have a serious case of little man syndrome. Incidentally, that's not the only SPAA you're going to see in this particular match, and that was something that did sort of confuse me a little bit. Obviously, this being a combined arms event, there is a call to have them because they can shoot down enemy planes. And I have seen higher tier SPAAs doing well against regular tanks when they can get on their flanks or behind them. However, at least in this match, I did think that the amount of anti-aircraft guns was a bit excessive. They could probably have done with a couple more regular tanks. Although there did appear to be multiple respawns on the spawn screen, so maybe it's not such a big issue. You can probably tell I wasn't really in any hurry to give up this particular camping spot, and sure enough, patience paid off again. Yet another Kugelblitz. And frankly, he could probably have gotten around me if he'd decided to be a bit sneaky, but I think this guy just decided to go for it and hope for the best, really. I'll add that this guy kind of got unlucky as well, because my initial impression from where I was on the hill was that there was far less space between us. So as I came past here, I was actually starting to think he might have escaped, heading in a sort of west-southwest direction to get away from me. Had my turret been turned a little further to the right, so he wasn't in my field of view, I'd have gone straight past him, and he may well have lived on to become a real pain in the arse. Well, that was it for a little while. I found a couple of new spots and shot some AI, and did a lot of not very much while I assumed my teammates were tooling around the countryside trying to find enemies. In the end though, two players in US tanks got onto the cap point, so I started moving in their direction, ready to help them out if they needed it. Well, that happened, and so the search for the hidden 105 Tiger II began. This guy did a lot of damage over the next 5-10 minutes. It turned out he'd managed to get into position on the high ground right at the edge of the map, in a position that was very difficult to approach. He ended up taking out both of those M46s who were capping, and a T-54 who was trying to climb up the hill towards him. I'd been mystified as to how anyone could get up there in the first place, and had headed towards the enemy's spawn in an effort to see if there was like a footpath or something that you could use to get there. Turns out there's a few spots where the incline is shallow enough that you can make your way up to the top of the hill there, so that's exactly what I did, and it nearly went very badly for me. Okay, Fluff, if ever there was a time to make like a tree, this is it. And I think that's the fastest my heart has beaten for a while. I didn't see any reason to get down from this position now that the native 105 had been removed, so I settled down next to Hans, Franz and Steve on their little AA emplacement and just kept scanning. But I didn't have to wait long. I did feel quite bad about letting that guy get destroyed, and said as much in the chat as you'll see, but at that point I really wasn't sure if my default ammunition would actually have the penetration to get through the Tiger II's frontal hull or turret armour. I thought I might be able to get a shot in through the whole deck, but if I didn't, all I'd have done was give away my position, and that 105 is quite capable of delivering a hefty bitch slap. The sighting of the Ostwind marked the last tank the enemy actually had on their team, the rest were aircraft, and his sliding demise marked my 5th player kill, which I was quite happy about, even if most of them were AA guns. But more importantly for the team, this was pretty much a point at which we were unopposed. We had 2 tanks and they had 2 aircraft, so we were perfectly positioned to go for the win. And that's pretty much it for this match. We got a surprise visit and a bit of banter at the end, which I'll leave in for you. And the end of game rewards were, as I recall, quite mediocre, which is pretty much typical of ground forces and especially ground forces events at the moment. But I really don't mind because I absolutely adore these particular game modes. And more or less the only reason I don't play them exclusively is if I've got a vehicle that I'm working on and there are no events that actually feature it. I'm hopeful that Gaijin might switch these no marker events to the main queues, but even if they don't, it's great to have them there if you want them. That'll be all from me for now, so thank you very much for watching, and of course, take care.